Hi everyone, I'm Cassie or Geeky Cassie, and today we're talking about empowerment. I am a co-founder of Black Twitch UK and also director of Nox Luminar, which is a bespoke events company. And I'm also a director of a care agency that provides support for vulnerable adults in the community, from dementia to end-of-life care. And I've crossed that over into gaming, so it's really important to talk about this here. And I am with a few other people. So I'll let them introduce themselves.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm Steve Baharrell, Chief Executive of Newcastle United Foundation. So we're the charity of Newcastle United, and we recently launched our esports arena a couple of years ago. And I've been working with British Esports Association to bring that life.
Hi, it's me again, it's Emma. Esports professional player, all-round messer, and EDI champion. What's up?
Okay, so there's a lot of words that people use, and I was ranting about this with my taxi driver. When people talk about empowerment, what does that mean to you, and how does that kind of apply with your role?
For me, it's more just giving someone the opportunity to be themselves and without fear of consequence or backlash or idiots online. But I mean, you can't really do much about that most of the time. So yeah, empowerment for me is more just allowing people and giving people the space to be themselves and be who they want to be.
Yeah, all that.
But very similar, I suppose. It's our profession. So the Newcastle United Foundation is the charity of a football club, and that's all about helping people realise their aspirations and their opportunities, regardless of their ability, their sexuality, their faith, their height, their name. So it's kind of within our DNA.
Their height.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
I felt like when the height was there,
I'm trying height, hair colour.
that felt very accusatory
No.
towards us.
Well, we're all sat down with the same height here, aren't we?
That's true.
I haven't really seen this, have we? Yeah. Height, Yeah, I suppose it's just it really doesn't matter. I mean, football has been a really powerful way for people to engage. And whilst the football club is about elite football, we're not about anybody, regardless of anything, who wants to be involved in football or employability or well-being.
So, what are practical things that you can think to do when it comes to empowerment? What I do is I didn't really think that my I say 9 to 5, but who knows what time is anymore. But my main job, I didn't really think that it would relate to gaming, but there was so many things that crossed over. The structure of policies is important for gaming because we don't have that one. But two things like safeguarding and kind of sharing information. So are there things that you have that would be practical tips for people on how to empower others?
I mean, I just sort of share my own background and what's worked for me. So talking to friends, family, counselling, therapy, those kind of things. But I mean, I'm not a professional, so I take my opinion with a bit of salt.
No, I think it's good to have actual real life kind of context as well.
It's kind of like case study, right? You can take what I've done, and if it works for you, it works for you. But everyone's different, so you can take parts of it. You maybe don't want to do counselling, and you just don't want to talk to your friends and family. You can get you can talk anonymously online now with counselling, so that nobody knows who you are. But I think all following down the safeguarding route, it's important to talk about it, and it's important to make sure people are looked after, especially in esports, because there's a lot of lows for players and for anyone really involved in the space, because there's always layoffs.
Yeah. And what about you? What do you think about?
I suppose my view is different because I'm not a gamer.
Are you not at all?
No, yeah, no, I have been. I have been. But I run a charity, and it's an important part of what we're growing. And I think safeguarding's incredibly important to us in terms of keeping colleagues safe, keeping participants or gamers safe, and we're built on policies and procedures. So that's just part of our DNA. The empowerment bit, the thing I've absolutely realised about esports is it's completely meritocratic. It doesn't matter who you are in real life. It doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter your ability or not. A computer game is an absolutely essential way to sort of standardise and differentiate in a way that's engaging and fun and easy to understand. Like my boy's 7. he's never picked up a manual to learn how to play the games he plays online or VR. He just, so in terms of that, I think it's unique in terms of allowing people to be whatever they want to be in this arena.
Yeah.
I think some of that you can take, some of that might make people slightly more vulnerable, but actually I think it can be quite empowering. My boy was on his VR headset this morning before school. He's speaking to some kid in America. I don't know what time it was in America. That kid wasn't at school, right? But he wouldn't have those conversations in school. He's quite an introverted boy, but he comes alive in a safe environment. I think gaming's allowed him to, he doesn't, because he's in this VR world, he's immersed in it. He forgets he's running around the kitchen banging into stuff. But that's really quite interesting because he's just becoming more confident.
Yeah. I think that's one of the benefits of gaming is it's for everyone. There's no barriers. Anyone can pick up a controller or a headset or their phone or literally anything now and be transported into this new world where you can forget where you are and forget what you're doing outside the world and just learn and grow and get like extra skills and transferable skills and like grow your social skills and learn how to talk to people and learn how to be confident in yourself. So gaming is just a massive, powerful tool to help anyone sort of grow. He's maybe not like your traditional athlete and doesn't have like, if you're going to school and you're not part of the sports team, whenever I went to school, if you weren't part of any of the sports teams or the clubs, you didn't really have anything else. But now you can do gaming, which means those people have a place they can go and they can learn and they can grow.
I think those are really good points. I really liked what you were saying as well, because I did something with Children in Need on Friday, and one of the charities that they highlighted, there's a kid, I think he's about 11, and he was connecting when his dad was going through like respite just before he passed away. He was playing games with him, and that's what the charity does. They like sort of support people through bereavement, and how he connected with his dad is how he's connecting with other people. And I think like a lot of the time when I do talks, people talk about like the negative side of it, like, oh, what have you kind of gone through on the internet? But there's also the community side for me, which has helped immensely. I've got like most of my friends are like strange nerds like me. Also, none of my friends outside really understand what I'm doing because I'm like an adult in my 30s, and so most of my friends are out there. Like we're talking about their kids. So when I get back and I get to do like my things, it feels like I've got both worlds that can marry up. So that's community to me. And I guess you kind of touched about that. But for like building more communities, what would that mean to you? And how would you kind of like, if you could set up ideal communities now, how would you do that?
I might have an answer for this question. I think that right.
I'll have a think.
Because you'll give us a couple of minutes there. Yeah. I suppose what we're trying to do at Newcastle United Foundation is we deliver 1 million hours of physical activity across the region, and we're trying to use digital to protect some of that. So I think you're either young people and young adults are going to be one of two spectrums. They're going to be digitally engaged or digitally excluded or digitally disengaged, head down on iPad. We've got to try and find a way to inspire people, make them interested and curious, but including digital in that. So we just launched a augmented reality Hado experience from our building, which is really about trying to nudge people into physical activity by gamifying it.
Yeah. So
trying to be quite innovative. The quals that we deliver around esports have a level of enrichment attached to it. So we're really trying to think, how does this become an important part of what we want to be? Because actually it's not going anywhere. So I think you've got that sense of community. I think the challenge with it is whilst you're in the games world, you're not in the place, you're not present right now. I think there's the two we've got to try and marry up. But to go back to your situation with that young person, I think sport and esports are very similar. If you want to forget a problem, you can delve into any sport, whether it's esports, whether it's football, and you forget about a problem for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Whether you can work through a problem in esports, I think it's slightly different. So my version, as a man in his 40s, is if I wanted to think something through, I could go for a bike ride or a run. If I wanted to forget a problem, I could play football. And I think I could forget a problem playing esports. I don't know enough to know that there's a game that I could work through some of my problems and just think it through. It feels like it's so engaging and takes over all of your thought and mind and senses. So that's a view of somebody who isn't in that world, but on the outside looking in, but who has a vested interest in trying to make this work for the community that I serve.
So yeah, I was just gonna say before we go to one casual plug, Rosie and Rosie from Safe in Our World, we are like launching an event over like 6 places. One of them is going to be in Newcastle, and it's called the Gamer Health Hub, and it's to talk about like financial health, but physical health as well, and mental health. And we're going to do like practical things like physical activities, but also I don't think that you have to sacrifice one for the other. Gaming definitely takes me out of real life, which is good, because working like all day, having to like worry about like CQC, having to worry about like work, and then being able to switch off with gaming is good. But also going to the gym is also important for me. Lockdown was like being inside and not being able to do anything for like 2 years. Horrendous. So I 100% agree with that. So being able to have that facilitated by something is key. So yeah.
I mean, it's just you have to focus on the health side of it as well as the actual physical play side of it, I guess.
And it's a community thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like football's always been that thing where once you start watching it, even if you hate it, you're like, oh my God.
Anyone who says they don't like football, go to a football match and then tell us you don't like football, because it's a completely different experience. But we're not really here to talk about football.
We'll try my best, but yeah.
But like it's the fitness aspect and the health aspect for me. If I was to build a community, it would be as much focus on actually developing yourself healthily, both mentally and physically, with like a good nutritious diet and knowing what you're eating and knowing all the different sort of side effects of if you're in a session gaming for 9 hours and you're just pounding energy drinks, you're gonna crash every time. You're not gonna have that peak key performance.
Are you not coming for me? What's this? What's going on? It's an intervention.
But I mean, I've went through quite a journey from the Commonwealth, so I've lost 10 stone since the Commonwealth, and like my reactions in the games are now way better. Like my hand-eye coordination is way improved. Like everything is peaking far better whenever I perform now in like professional standpoints.
How interesting! That's really cool.
Yeah, it's like I don't drink Monster anymore. I have like a coffee a couple of hours before and then water on stage.
Other brands are available.
Other brands are available. I can't drink fizzy drinks anymore, so that definitely helped. But like caffeinated drinks, it's about knowing that like you're now going to be in this environment for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours. If you have a Monster, you have an energy drink, a caffeinated sugary drink, you're going to crash. You're going to have that initial peak, which will be great. And if you can carry that peak and finish it quickly, fair. But 9 times out of 10, that's not going to happen. You're going to crash, and then you're going to have a lull, and then you're going to be in a break where you're like, I'm coming down from a sugar high, and I'm getting restless sitting in my chair, and I'm on stage. There's all these lights, and you get distracted, and it's about finding that balance. And for me, it's like went from the Commonwealth where I was just downing energy drinks after energy drinks to now the European Games where I was like in the gym before game day, and I would get all my energy burned out and be ready, feel physically warmed up, feel active, and it makes a huge difference. It's a huge definitely like the default sort of opinion of gaming being just sweaty nerds in basements drinking energy drinks and eating crisps is no longer the case for especially for esports at the highest level. It's a lot of nutrition and a lot of exercise and a good healthy balance, which I think is what's not shown enough.
Yeah. So I think that's good for like showing how you empower yourself. And so how would we, with everything that we're saying, create those, like, how would you give that to other people? How are you going to like connect that? And also, what would you expect other people to do? I think that's kind of, because we're in the point where we're trying to speak to people and we want them to invest it. Like realistically, there needs to be money and funding for things. So what would you like them to kind of support?
I think if you think about really young people and children, they're all pretty creative, like to draw. They all like the happiest when they're chasing people. fast as they can. That kind of, for whatever reason, that sort of disappears. And there's absolutely a correlation between physical activity and mental well-being. I think if the NHS could prescribe any sort of prescription around wellness, it would be activity, in whatever form. But certainly secondary schools are facing some real challenges at the minute on the back of COVID, particularly across our community, 9 and 10 children who are attending school but have been sort of unseen and unheard for a while in terms of their anxiety, personal social development. So I think, and I don't know if esports helps with that, contributes towards that, is a challenge because that it's probably just another thing. But I think people are more aware of mental health. I don't think people are necessarily comfortable having conversations around mental health. And I'm not sort of well versed enough to have an opinion on what that means for people in the community who are gamers. But it's not going anywhere. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's some of the things we can do is just normalize mental health, right? Normalize talking about it. I have suffered with depression since I was 14-ish. Who knows? Irrelevant. But
relevant. It's relevant.
Well, it's not relevant of when it happened. It's just now relevant that we talk about it because mental health is far more common than you think, and the more people talk about it, the easier it will get, and the more people will realize that, okay, you're still just a normal person. You still, I have that issue too. Here's how I help. Here's how I do it. And then that takes a huge amount of stress. That was a mixture of stress and pressure. Stress and pressure, stress from mental health professionals, because you're now getting help at home or with your friend group or with your community, and you're able to do that. But on the other side of it, I think like I was saying, I think every esports org and team needs to invest in a trained mental health professional to offer to everyone who's a part of that, whether you're a player, whether you're staff, whether you're freelance. If you work with an org or a team or a company, you should have someone that you can then go to and be like, actually, this is what you asked me to do. It's made me feel like this, and I need help to deal with this, and how do I express my feelings and stuff. So I know that comes with a cost, because it's not cheap to be, to have someone trained in mental health, professionally, from a professional standpoint, where they can, give advice that's maybe not like my advice, which is all based on my previous experience. It's based on my lived experiences, whereas I'd love to be able to just give someone like professional advice, so like this will help. But again, everyone's different, so it's hard to balance.
I think so. I think you've got a couple of things where you try to reduce the stigma around mental health, and you try to promote positive mental health, because none of our professional counsellors, well, you might be, I'm certainly not, but I think, and there are professional services out there which are probably stretched. I think the community, esports community, has the opportunity to broadcast, to absolutely reach people in places everywhere who've got access to a device. And so I think you've got this population approach, which is how do you create some narrative or some comms or a strategy around, let's just reduce the stigma, first of all, around mental health, and let's promote positive mental health, because we can all do that. And then you might be able to signpost into some interventions. I think everyone can do that, and I think that perhaps does sort of shift the dial a little bit, because it becomes a narrative that everyone has mental health, regardless who you're on. Sometimes it's better and sometimes it's worse, and some people are crisis and some people aren't. So we've been doing some work on a program called Be a Game Changer, which is, so the northeast of England has the highest rates of male suicide for men over 40 in the country. And obviously St James's Park holds 52,000 people, and that equates to like a full stand of men. So we've been doing a campaign which reached about 2 million people. Now that isn't a service that is, if you're a crisis, you should call the Samaritans and other professionals, but actually it's starting to lean into the majority of people and saying, are you aware that this is a thing? You come to the match anyway, why don't you have one other conversation when you're here? So I think there are absolutely ways that you can maybe start to, but that's about, let's say, reducing stigmas rather than immediate help.
Yeah, that's it. That's what you have to do, is talk about it. Reduce the stigma, talk about it, normalize it. it won't solve every issue. It won't solve, you know, it won't clear your mental health. It won't, you know, but it'll help you take a step forward. And that's all you can really do without being a professional, is give someone the ability to feel better and take that first initial step forward.
And sometimes just like you don't need an answer. Sometimes you just got to like sit in the mud with people.
Yeah.
Like that's, you know, I think you've got a community, haven't you? Esports, there's a real community. I think if it becomes people aren't scared of the word, not prepared just to be around, I think we can all probably do a bit of that.
So there was actually a really good ad by the Samaritans, and I just remember like really hit a lot of people, and it was two guys at a football game, I think, and it was just showing them on different days, and there was one that looked really sad, and there's one that like looked really happy and was really joyous, and I guess everyone just had the thing of like, oh, you know, it was about men's mental health, or it was about mental health in general, and the person that wasn't there at the end was the one that always was like bringing joy and being extra loud, and it was really impactful. And I saw it like ages ago, and I still think about it now. And I really like the fact that it gave a different like view of that conversation. I think there's two things here when it comes from I kind of crossing over into two different industries. Do you think that there's things and structures in place from the sports world that we could apply to esports? And do you think there's things that we do in esports that I was going to go on a whole nother rant about like the distinction between it, because there's so much crossover between like sports and esports. But from what you do esports wise, do you think there's things that we could lean into when we're talking sports, and from the structures that we have in sports? It could go the other way as well. Sorry, I keep hitting you now.
I think for me, in being in esports, I think I would like to take like the coaching staff and like the well-being staff from traditional sports. Like I'm an Arsenal fan. I watch all their extra content.
Sorry about that. Yeah. Wait.
I think we're above both of you on the table right now. Irrelevant. But like I watch all their content, and you see them like having like physicals, you see them having training, nutrition, you see them talking about, you know, all the different things and being signposted to all the different charities. Like I think I would like to take that aspect from football, but I understand that there's a lot more money in football because TV rights and stuff, that you can afford to have that, but it needs to stop being seen as a luxury anymore. It needs to be seen as a necessity, and it doesn't have to be the same level. It can just be one person in a room that's like, come and talk to me, I will help with whatever you need.
I think there's a lot to learn in terms of protecting young people. If you think the 70s and 80s, there's a lot of historic sex abuse attached to professional sport and volunteering. I think the work of Bernardo's, Premier League Charter Fund, to make sure there's real balance and rigor around policies and procedures, training. Well, there's a lot you can learn, you know, particularly around online safeguarding. So I think there are areas of an emerging sport, let's take it as esports being an emerging sport, that you can learn from the best bits of what's been learned and what's been done in the past. I think for me, it's like you were saying, professional sports use data and digital really well around performance. I think there's probably something there in terms of that's performance rather than well-being.
Yeah. Okay, I know we're going to be finishing up soon. One of the last things I wanted to kind of ask was, you made really good points about what like kids are getting in, and I think that's really important for them to have good leaders and for to see people that are successful, that are also good energy, and are also giving them good information and encouraging, like whether they're gamers and still being active, or whether they're in football and still like looking at different ways that they can be safe online. So what kind of things would you do to encourage new leaders? And yeah, I think mainly leaders that can kind of, like kids can relate to.
I think you just have to give them the platform and not gatekeep. I think there can be a lot of gatekeeping, and not just esports or gaming, but like in everything. It's people don't want to lose what they have and are too afraid to let someone else come in and join the club.
I agree.
I think we owe it to everyone to like showcase everyone else as much as like it's because esports is not about any one person or any one entity. It's about everyone, and it's about including everyone. So I think if someone wants to put themselves out there, we owe it to them to support them like we would any of our other friends, and really put them on a pedestal and let them shine. Because we were talking about this earlier. It's, you know, we've said the same things over and over again. Let's have someone else come in and let them voice their opinions, and let's see what they say. And all it's going to do is amplify the overall message, because it will be the same sort of message. It'll just be said in a different way and from a different experience and a different walk of life that will then connect with other people.
Yeah.
I think leadership's interesting because I think people have to want to lead. You can't tell people to lead. So it's how do you create a platform for people who want to have a voice. And then I think in my experience, ego gets in the way of a lot of stuff. And I think both sides, one where people think so amazing that they don't ever need any help or support. And then those I think they're not enough. I think it's just trying to be as balanced as you can. But everyone should, it comes back to that meritocratic approach. Everyone should feel like if they want to, they can. Yeah. And how does the industry provide a platform so that and I think that is the absolute unique opportunity esports has, is regardless what you can or can't do, let's take physically, there's a level playing field. So I think, and with that level playing field, they get so many diverse voices, because otherwise, if you weren't the fastest runner or the strongest or the quickest, then you couldn't. Sports wasn't for you, and now it absolutely is. So,
yeah. Love that. Good chat. Thank you so much for everything. Is there anything you want to confess to the community?
Broke this stream. It was my fault. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks.